Now students, let us come to the detailed analysis of indicated power. Before going to indicated power or deriving the formula of indicated power, first of all we must have the basic knowledge of what is our indicator diagram. Once we have studied indicator diagram, then we will go for indicated mean effective pressure, and that is nothing but PIM, indicated mean effective pressure. And once we know what is indicated mean effective pressure, then we will derive the expression for indicated power. Fine. So first of all we will be studying what is our indicated diagram. Fine. Now see students, suppose this is our cylinder and let the current position of the piston be somewhere here, and this region is known as our combustion chamber. Generally we denote it with CC. Fine. Now see students, what I do is that here I attach some electrical instrument. Fine. And we know that the piston is continuously reciprocating between top dead center and our bottom dead center. So continuously there is some variation of pressure and volume in our combustion chamber, and the work of this electrical instrument is nothing but to measure pressure versus volume variation with time in combustion chamber. Is it okay? So this electrical instrument is used to measure how pressure is varying with volume in combustion chamber. Fine. And when we plot this variation of pressure and volume within the combustion chamber, then what we obtain is known as our indicator diagram. Fine. So indicator diagram is nothing but plot of pressure versus volume on PV curve for one power cycle. This is nothing but our indicator diagram. Fine. Now see students, let this be our pressure axis, let this be our volume axis, and here we know that our first process 1 to 2 we are talking about Otto cycle, that means your SI engines. The first process is that of reversible adiabatic compression. Fine. And if I plot reversible adiabatic compression, the curve will be something like this on a PV diagram. This is our initial state, this is our final state, and 1 to 2 represents your reversible adiabatic compression. Why compression? See, when we are going from 1 to 2, the value of pressure is increasing and the value of volume is decreasing, and this is nothing but our compression. Fine. Now the next process here is 2 to 3, and it is nothing but constant volume heat addition. Now what do we mean by constant volume heat addition? See, it will be plotted something like this, 2 to 3. Fine. And the next process is reversible adiabatic expansion, and if we will plot expansion, it will be something like this, 3 to 4. And the last process, 4 to 1, is nothing but your constant volume heat rejection. Constant volume heat rejection, and it will be plotted something like this on a PV curve. Is it okay? Now see, this area is nothing but area enclosed by the cycle on PV curve. And from first law and from basics of thermodynamics, we note that this area is nothing but work obtained per power cycle. Work obtained per power cycle, that means the work that is being obtained from our IC engine, from our Otto cycle in one power cycle. Fine. And here this work is nothing but your indicated work. This work is also referred as our indicated work. Fine. Now see students, let this be our piston cylinder arrangement. Fine. And this is nothing but our top dead center, or it may also be referred as inner dead center in case of your horizontal cylinders. Fine. And if I extend this line, this can be visualized as our bottom dead center or outer dead center. Is it okay? And what we are seeing is that the piston is reciprocating between top dead center and bottom dead center. Fine. So this length becomes L, and it is known as your stroke length. Is it okay? Now what I do is that I make a side view, and obviously this engine cylinder is in the form of a cylinder. Fine. So its cross section or the side view will be something like this, and this is nothing but your circular cross section. Now what I do is that I mark its center and draw one diameter D, and this is nothing but your bore diameter. Is it okay? This is nothing but your bore diameter. So what will be the area here? Area will be pi by 4 into d square. And see, this region is nothing but the volume swept when the piston is moving from bottom dead center to top dead center. So this region is also known as your swept volume, represented by Vs. And what is the formula of this Vs? Vs is equals to this area into stroke length L. So pi by 4 d square into length L. This becomes the swept volume. Fine. Now see students, again I will draw one PV diagram. Let this PV diagram or the graph be represented like this. Fine. Now see students, this length on volume axis represents your stroke volume or swept volume. Fine. And corresponding to that, I measure the same swept volume as in actual case. Fine. Now what I am seeing is that here initially the pressure was P1, then the pressure is changing, it is going to P2, then P3, then your 4 and then 1. So what I am seeing is that the pressure is continuously changing within the cycle. So what I do is that I plot some mean pressure. And let this mean pressure be PIM, indicated mean effective pressure. So here the value is PIM. Now see students, the volume or the area enclosed by this region, let this be area 2, and let here the area enclosed here be area 1. And what we observe is that area 1 is equals to area 2. Is it okay? So how to define this PIM? See students, this PIM is nothing but, this is the average pressure when multiplied with swept volume Vs gives work done per power cycle. Now see students, what is the area 2? See, this area can be simply written as your this length into this length, product of this length and this length, and this length is nothing but your Vs and this length is nothing but your PIM. So your work per power cycle will be equal to your PIM into Vs. So we can define PIM, indicated mean effective pressure, as the average pressure which when multiplied with swept volume Vs will give us the work obtained per power cycle. Is it okay? This is nothing but our indicated mean effective pressure. This is our indicated mean effective pressure. Fine. See students, so far we have discussed indicator diagram, and with the help of indicator diagram we developed the concept of indicated mean effective pressure, and with the help of this indicated mean effective pressure we are going to develop the expression of indicated power. Fine. Now see students, your indicated power, first of all we must understand what is the unit of power. See, either it is expressed in joules per second or your kilojoule per second. That means your energy upon time, and here energy is in the form of work. Is it okay? So work upon time becomes our power. See, joule per second simply can be written as our watt, and kilojoule per second can be simply written as kilowatt. Is it okay? Fine. Now see students, indicated power is written as work per power cycle, work per power cycle per cylinder. Fine. And here the units are your joule per cycle, joule per cycle. Fine. Now see, there are multi-cylinder engines. That means what we need to do is that the work produced per cylinder will be multiplied with number of cylinders. So we multiply this expression with number of cylinders, and it is generally represented by K. It is generally represented by K. Now see students, still the units are joule per cycle, work per power cycle. So I need to multiply this expression with number of power cycles per second, number of power cycles per second. Fine. Now see, this work per power cycle per cylinder can be simply written as product of indicated mean effective pressure into swept volume Vs. Fine. And this number of cylinder is nothing but K. Fine. And see, here it is written as N upon 60. Now what is N? N is nothing but number of power cycles per minute, number of power cycles per minute. But here what we require is number of power cycles per second. Is it okay? So we divide it with 60. So the expression simply can be written as indicated power is equals to PIM into Vs into K into N by 60, and here the units will be your joule per second, or we can say simply watt. However, if I want to convert it into kilowatt, it will be become PIM into Vs into K into N upon 60 into 1000. So, here the units will be your kilowatt. Fine. Now, see students, I am repeatedly saying N is nothing but number of power cycles. Now, what do we mean by power cycle? See, what do we mean by power cycle? Now, let us understand it with some examples. Suppose a 4-stroke engine. Now, in 4-stroke engine, first stroke is that of suction, the second stroke is compression, the third stroke is your expansion or power stroke, the fourth stroke is your exhaust stroke. And we know that each stroke constitutes of 180 degree of crank rotation. This is again 180 degree, 180 degree and 180 degree. That means one cycle, one power cycle of the 4-stroke engine constitutes of 720 degree of crank rotation. That means 2 crank cycles. 720 degree means 2 crank cycles, and this together is known as your 1 power cycle. So, here we see that your 1 power cycle is equals to 2 crank cycles. Is it okay? So, here let N be your RPM, rotations per minute. That means your N crank cycles are taking place per minute. Is it okay? And we know that N crank cycles will be equal to the half of the power cycles. So, we can say that your N, number of power cycles, becomes N by 2. So, here in this expression we can write indicated power is equals to PIM into Vs into K into N by 2 divided by 60 and 1000, where N is nothing but RPM. However, see, what we have seen is that N becomes equals to N by 2 for a 4-stroke cycle. However, the number of power cycles will be equal to the RPM for a 2-stroke cycle. Fine. Because here one power cycle executes in one complete crank rotation. Fine. Now come to the concept of brake power. Now see students, there acts some force, this force, and this is known as some Fp. Fp is nothing but your piston force, and this force is responsible for the motion of piston between your top dead center and your bottom dead center. Is it okay? Now see students, when the piston is reciprocating from top dead center to bottom dead center, your crank will rotate in this direction. Fine. And see, one component of piston force will act in the direction of connecting rod. Let this be this force, because what we are seeing is that the motion of piston leads to the motion of connecting rod and it leads to the rotation of crank, and let this force be FCR, and there will be one component that will act in normal direction or direction perpendicular to the cylinder walls, and let that force be your normal force. Now let us draw the vector diagram. Let this angle be your phi and let this angle be your theta at any given instant. Fine. Now the vector diagram will be something like this. This is your Fp, this is your Fn, fine, and this force is nothing but your FCR. So what we can see is that this FCR is nothing but your resultant force, and this angle is nothing but your phi. So your FCR can be simply written as your Fp upon cos phi. Is it okay? Now see students, this force acting on connecting rod is again distributed. One of its component will act along the crank, and that force is simply known as your Fc, and one of the component will act tangentially, and this force is known as your Ft, and this force is sometimes also referred as your crank pin effort, and this force Fc, force acting along the crank, is sometimes also referred as your thrust force. Is it okay? Fine. Now see here, this angle is phi, this angle is theta, so this angle will become 180 minus theta plus phi. Is it okay? Now suppose I extend this line, so total this angle will be 180, so this angle left with us will be nothing but your theta plus phi. And see students, this Fc and this Ft are at 90 degree, so this angle with us is nothing but your 90 minus theta plus phi. 90 minus theta plus phi. So from here we can say that this Ft, crank pin effort, this Ft, crank pin effort, is nothing but your FCR. see this force acting in this direction into cos 90 minus theta plus phi. So this can be simply written as your FCR into sin theta plus phi, or this can be written as your FP upon cos phi into sin theta plus phi. Is it okay? So here we have developed an expression for Ft, that is your Fp upon cos phi into sin theta plus phi. See students, this Ft is nothing but a tangential force, and it will lead to turning effect on crank. See, this component Ft is responsible for the rotation of crank. Is it okay? Now see, here comes a term T. T is nothing but torque, and T becomes equals to your Ft, your crank pin effort multiplied by the radius R. And what is radius R? R is nothing but your radius of crank. Is it okay? This length, see students, this length becomes your crank radius R. Fine. And what will be the power? See, the power is nothing but your torque into angular speed omega, and the expression simply can be written as torque into 2 pi n by 60, where n is nothing but your RPM. So your power becomes 2 pi n t by 60, and this power is nothing but your brake power, the useful power developed at our crankshaft. Fine. Now see students, the concept of frictional power represented by Fp. And see, the definition of frictional power is that power required to overcome first frictional losses, the second one is your unaccounted losses, the third one is your pumping losses. And again the frictional losses was between crankshaft and bearings, your between piston and cylinder wall, the third one is between your camshaft and bearings. Fine. And your pumping loss is due to your adverse pressure difference, and this unaccounted loss is due to power consumed from crankshaft to operate auxiliary devices such as valve mechanism and ignition system. Is it okay? Fine. So here what we have seen is that earlier there was some power at piston, and that was nothing but your indicated power, and this power at piston got converted into useful power at crankshaft, and between there was some frictional losses, then your pumping losses, and then your unaccounted losses. Fine. See, this term is known as your brake power, and the power required to overcome this friction, pumping losses and unaccounted losses is known as our frictional power. So from first law of thermodynamics we can say that indicated power is nothing but the sum of frictional power and brake power. Now students, come to the concept of efficiency. The first efficiency here is your indicated thermal efficiency, and it is also represented by neta indicated. Fine. Now let us understand what is neta indicated. See, neta indicated is nothing but your ratio of indicated power upon maximum rate of energy that can be delivered by fuel. See students, what is happening? Suppose it is some fuel of mass m, and what I do? I undergo a combustion process of this fuel m, due to which what I am obtaining is your indicated power. So the ratio of indicated power to the energy stored in the fuel is nothing but your indicated thermal efficiency. Fine, neta indicated. So this can be simply written as indicated power upon mass flow rate of fuel into its calorific value. This is nothing but your calorific value. And the relation between two can be written as your m dot f into calorific value is nothing but your indicated power plus heat losses plus loss due to incomplete combustion. Loss due to incomplete combustion. Fine. Now see students, the next comes here is that of brake thermal efficiency represented by neta brake, and this is nothing but your brake power upon maximum rate of energy that can be delivered by fuel. Fine. So this is represented by neta break, and the relation between two is nothing but your m dot f into calorific value is nothing but your brake power plus heat losses plus losses due to incomplete combustion plus frictional losses plus unaccounted losses plus your pumping losses. So the total energy stored in the fuel minus all these losses becomes our brake power. Is it okay? Fine. Now the third efficiency here we need to study is your mechanical efficiency, represented by neta mechanical, and this neta mechanical is nothing but ratio of brake power to indicated power. Fine. Ratio of brake power and indicated power is nothing but your mechanical efficiency. The next we need to study is your relative efficiency. Now what do we mean by relative efficiency? See, it is nothing but the comparison of actual efficiency as compared to the maximum efficiency. Fine. So relative efficiency is nothing but neta brake, your brake thermal efficiency divided by efficiency of air standard cycle. Now what do we mean by air standard cycle? Had this cycle been operating in ideal conditions or reversible conditions, that case would be of air standard cycle. So obviously when this cycle will be operating in ideal conditions, the efficiency will be maximum. So this is nothing but actual efficiency upon maximum efficiency. Now here we take that of brake thermal efficiency, because it is the brake power that is being utilized for running an automobile. Fine. So brake thermal efficiency divided by maximum efficiency or efficiency of an air standard cycle. Fine. The last here comes your volumetric efficiency. Now see students, this is very important. What do we mean by volumetric efficiency? This is nothing but actual mass of charge entering combustion chamber during suction stroke upon maximum mass of charge that can enter combustion chamber during suction stroke at atmospheric conditions. Now see students, here this is very important, the actual mass and the maximum mass. Moreover, here other technical terms are used are suction stroke and your atmospheric conditions. Now what do we mean by atmospheric conditions? When the pressure is equals to 1 atmosphere or equal to almost 1 bar. Is it okay? Now see students, see, initially the position of piston is at top dead center. Now as the piston is reciprocating from top dead center to bottom dead center, what we say here is that a low pressure region is created, and as the piston starts its motion from TDC to your BDC, this inlet valve opens. This inlet valve opens. Is it okay? And this is nothing but your suction stroke. And since here the pressure is equals to 1 atmosphere and here the pressure is less than 1 atmosphere, because a low pressure region is created, some of the fuel, some of the charge will enter the combustion chamber. Some of the charge will enter the combustion chamber due to this pressure difference. So here what we are seeing is that this combustion chamber is being filled due to the pressure difference, your atmospheric pressure and the pressure inside the combustion chamber. Is it okay? And we know that your pressure is equals to, product of pressure into volume is equals to MRT. Is it okay? Now see here, actually in actual conditions, your pressure P is less than P atmospheric. Is it okay? And in your ideal conditions, that means ideal conditions means the pressure is equals to P atmospheric. The pressure inside the combustion chamber is equals to P atmospheric. Now since this P is less than P atmospheric, so M actual will be less than your M ideal. Is it okay? And the volumetric efficiency is nothing but your M actual divided by M ideal. Mass of charge entering this combustion chamber during suction stroke in ideal conditions divided by mass of charge entering this combustion chamber during suction stroke, when the pressure inside the combustion chamber is equals to 1 atmosphere. This is the definition of volumetric efficiency. Now come to fuel consumption. Again it is of two types: indicated specific fuel consumption, and that is nothing but your how much amount of fuel is consumed to produce indicated power. So the units will be your kg per second upon watt. Is it okay? Now, what is your brake specific fuel consumption? It is represented by BSFC and it is represented by ISFC. Brake specific fuel consumption, that means M dot F used to produce brake power BP. This is our fuel consumption, indicated specific fuel consumption and brake specific fuel consumption. अमित जी हो गया?